Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over the quadratic equation method that is new. This came out in October, and I have posted on to the assignment the video that the creator put out, and I'd like for you to watch that as well. And so basically the understanding is that the parabola is symmetric about the x equal negative b over 2a axis. And so the answers are equidistant from that center. So the answers are going to be negative b over 2a plus z, and that's going to give us this one. And then negative b over 2a minus z, that gives us that answer. And so those are my two answers. But what we have learned from factoring is that the two answers actually multiply together to give me the last number, which is c in my quadratic equation, or c over a if a is not 1. And so we can use this expression here with a, b, and c to solve for z and then plug it back in to find our solutions. So let's do an example. Okay, so we're going to use this procedure. Again, your answers are negative b over 2a plus z and negative b over 2a minus z. Those are your actual answers. And the thing is about your answers is that they have to multiply together to give you c over a. So we're going to use this for these two examples. For the first one, we've got negative 16 over 2 times 1, and that's going to give me negative 8. And so negative 8 plus z and negative 8 minus z has to be equal to 44 over 1. All right, I'm going to multiply this out using just our regular FOIL method. So I have 64 plus 8z minus 8z minus z squared is equal to 44. So that's going to give me 64 minus z squared equals 44. Okay, now I'm going to solve for z. I will add z squared to both sides. And then I will subtract 44 on both sides, and I get 20 is z squared. Okay, so now I'm going to square root both sides, and I get z is plus or minus 2 square roots of 5. Okay, now that's not my answer, right? My answer is negative 8 plus 2 square roots of 5 and negative 8 minus 2 square roots of 5. Now if you check this with other methods, you'll see that that is correct. Alright, so now this next one works the same way. The negative b over 2a, so I've got negative 8 over 2 times 2. That's going to give me negative 8 over 4, which is, in fact, negative 2. So this time I have negative 2 plus z, negative 2 minus z is equal to 5 over 2. This time, c over a. Multiply this out. Now I'm going to go a lot faster this time. I'm not going to show all my steps. I'm going to have 4 minus z squared is equal to 5 over 2, going a lot faster. I'm going to solve for z squared, or z, and so that's going to give me, again, I'm going to kind of go a little bit faster. That's going to give me 4 minus 5 over 2 equals z squared. Okay. You can check my work from the previous problem. See, I did the same steps. Right, and now I'm going to do 4 minus 5 over 2, so I'm going to have to deal with a fraction this time. So that's going to give me common denominator of a 2, so that's going to give me 8 over 2 minus 5 over 2 is equal to the z squared. So that's 3 over 2 is equal to z squared, not square root. Right. Then I'm going to square root both sides, and I get the square root of 3 over the square root of 2. Now I'm going to rationalize that because I know that's what you have to do. Let me erase that. So square root of 2 times the square root of 2, that's going to give me the square root of 6 over 2. Alright, so now my answers are negative 2 plus the square root of 6 over 2 and negative 2 minus the square root of 6 over 2. Remember where that negative 2 came from. It came from the negative b over 2a. Okay, so now we're going to do the new method, and again it's negative b over 2a plus z, that's one of my answers. Negative b over 2a minus z, that's the second answer, and the two answers have to multiply to equal c over a. So you will deal with some fractions, particularly on this next one, but we'll see how it works out. So first thing I'm going to do is negative b over 2a. So there's going to be a negative 1 over 2 times 6. So this is going to give me a negative 1 over 12. So definitely going to have to deal with fractions on this one, but that's okay. So this first problem is going to be negative 1/12 plus z and negative 1/12 minus z, and that's got to equal to negative 15 over 6. Now you can reduce the negative 15 over 6 if you want to. It won't make that much of a difference. So I'm going to multiply this out. So I get 1 over 144 plus 1/12 z minus 1/12 z, those go away, minus z squared equals, and we'll go ahead and reduce this fraction, and it'll be negative 5 over 2. Is that right? Okay. So that gives me 1 over 144 minus z squared equal negative 5 over 2. Okay. So now I'm going to isolate the z squared. I'm going to add z squared to both sides. And now I'm going to add 5 over 2 to both sides. Now, this problem is factorable. So this problem might actually work easier if you factor it, but I did want you to do one that show you one that was factorable and see how your answers turn out. So I've got to add these two fractions together. I'll have to get the common denominator from 2 and 144, which is going to be 144. And so that would give me, goodness, I've got to do that. So 144 is 72, so 5 times 72. So let's go 5 times 72 on my scratch. 360. Okay. And now when I add that, I get 361 over 144. And that's equal to z squared. And so now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get 19 over 12. That's what z is, plus or minus 19 over 12. You're like, that's not my answer. I know. Remember what your answer is? Let's go back and look. Our answer is negative 1/12 plus 19 over 12 and negative 1/12 minus 19 over 12. Let's look and see what we get here. This gives me 18 over 12, which reduces to 3 over 2. And this gives me negative 20 over 12, which reduces to negative 5 over, brain cramp, 3. There we go. Those are my answers. Those are my answers. Negative 5 over 3 and 3 over 2. And this one factors. And so this one would have probably worked a whole lot faster and a whole lot easier if you factored it. But I did want you to see one that was factorable. Okay, now this next one is imaginary. So let's do it real quick. The negative b over 2a for the second one. So there'll be a negative 6 over 2 times 3. So that's 6 over 6, so that's 1. So I'm going to have 1 plus z and 1 minus z, and that has to equal to 4 over 3. Ooh, more fractions. I can do this. I can do this. When I multiply it out, I get 1 minus z squared is equal to 4 over 3. All right. You can watch how I simplify this and solve for z squared if you want to. But I get z squared is equal to 1 minus 4/3. Okay. And if I do 1 minus 4/3, that's 3/3 minus 4/3. That's a negative 1/3. And then z squared. Take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to get z is the square root of negative 1/3, okay, which is the square root of 1 over the square root of 3, and it has an I on it, and then I need to rationalize it. So I'm going to get the I square root of 3 over 3. That's z. So now my answers are 1 plus I square root of 3 over 3 and 1 minus I square root of 3 over 3. And those are my answers for that one.